All right, we know there's a lot of questions going on right now regards to not just AAU basketball, but college basketball, high school basketball, and all kinds of things. And I'm sure people have questions about. You're the expert. You're the guy that's in touch with so many people, constantly on the phone. It's hard to even get a conversation with you sometimes. But let's use that to our advantage. So we want to go through, and I've got a bunch of questions that people are asking, and I'm just going to throw them over to you. You tell us what you're hearing, and we'll just take it from there. So the first thing is college basketball obviously is shut down, but also a lot of the college programs have been put on hold in terms of recruiting and being able to go out and do things. So what are you hearing in terms of what college coaches are even doing right now? What would they normally be doing, and how are they adjusting?
I think that this could be a really long-winded answer because there's so much going on, and there's so much question marks on what's going to happen next, who's doing what, because obviously, again, next year basketball is going to be played, and they need rosters, they need players, they need winners. Their paycheck comes from winning basketball games. So I've been on the phone with a ton of coaches over the last week and a half, discussing everything from the new potential calendars, what they're doing if they can't get out, what they're doing to combat all these things. So let's start with this. Right now, it's a dead period until April 15. The NCAA basically said, listen, you cannot be having players on campus, you can't be out recruiting, which obviously has set them back with regards to high school state tournaments, junior college tournaments,
So let me jump it back a little. What would they normally be doing if the world was in a normal state of recruiting? What would they be doing right now, March 2019?
Okay, so obviously right now the NCAA tournament would be going on, and for those colleges that are involved in that, or the NAIA tournament or whatever, the ones that are still participating would be finishing up their seasons. The ones that, let's say, were put out or didn't make it that far, they are right now, they would have immediately sent coaches to whatever state tournament, whatever junior college tournament that they wanted to either evaluate or continue recruiting. And I'll go back to that because I think there's a little bit of a question. First thing is they need to evaluate and find the right players. Then they start the recruiting process. What's being really stalled is just evaluating, finding enough of players that they're interested in so that they can recruit them. So the evaluation is really what's causing the recruiting to slow down or shift because they can't get out and evaluate anybody. So on a normal basis, they would be sending them out to those places, and then they'd be setting up their schedule for not only visits for those players that are seniors that they're trying to recruit for the following year, but also putting together their calendar for these are the AAU events, these are the junior college showcases, whatever, that are coming up throughout that spring so they can get out and evaluate, so they can go and find players. Again, right now, because it's on lockdown, hopefully that answered your question, but because it's not, they obviously can't get out and go to those state tournaments. They obviously can't have players on campus because they'd be setting up visits right now. I had an interesting conversation with a coach earlier that said, that's in flux. So right now, a lot of coaches are setting up visits for, let's say, April 20th. Well, if the NCAA or the NAIA pushes that back to May 1st and they've got 10 visits set up, now you're pushing everything back with their visits, which if they open it, let's say May 1st, they're going to have to do, this coach is staying here to take that visit, this coach is now going to that event, which again is going to make it even more critical on being smart with their time and trying to, because here's the deal is the longer you push things back, the more you're going to have to see guys get committed before they even take a visit, so now they're off your list, but also replenish that list, right? And then the only way to replenish that list is by seeing players. In the meantime, that's part of how the visits are going. But one of the things that they're trying to do is they're watching a lot. They're making a ton of calls and they're watching a lot of film and they're trying to just get information. And so I was talking to a different coach earlier today, and they were talking about they were calling me about some players that they had seen, asking if I had seen them because they were watching a highlight film. A highlight film was sent to them, and obviously that if it's a good one, which this particular highlight film sparked the phone call. So it showed that, look, that highlight film worked, and now I'm making the phone call to see what I thought about the kid and what I knew about him. And so they're watching a lot of film because that's all they can do. They're watching a lot of film. They're watching a lot of whatever they can get their hands on.
Where are they getting the film from? Are the kids sending it to them directly? Are they out hunting down? Are they just hearing names? Because now it feels like they're flying blind. They were depending on a postseason opportunity to evaluate, and now that's gone. At least until May.
Yep.
So what is the source of the videos, and maybe what should a high school kid be doing, or even a JUCO player be doing at this point, given that there's no more opportunities to play, especially for the seniors.
Yeah.
Until maybe they get on campus or something, which who knows when that might be.
Well, the highlight films are being sent to them by the high school coach, an AAU coach, or even the player.
Is that different than it was before, or is that still similar? Or are they just more receptive to it now?
They're more receptive. Now that all of us seem to have more in this industry, in the basketball world, seem to have more time because they have to fill out that roster. So I can't go out to watch players play. I can't travel this weekend and spend 48 hours on the road traveling and watching games. Mm-hmm. But I still gotta fill my hours. I want to find players, so they're watching more game film, flat out. They're watching more highlights. They're watching more games, and they probably can watch 40 seconds of one video and say it's not what I'm looking for, but if they see one and it's well done and it intrigues them, that's what's going to spark. Hey, okay, let's take it to the next step. Because again, it's really difficult to evaluate certain aspects of a player's game through a highlight video. Playing defensively, I was watching some film earlier today, and they were running his zone, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it was really hard to see how the kid moved defensively. Sure. So you've got to make a phone call to see if the kid can guard, right?
Yeah.
Being able to see, some toughness, some hustle plays. People aren't going to put on and nor should they, but on a highlight film, kid taking a charge or diving on a loose ball. They're watching the kid if he can shoot, watching his form, watching maybe how he handles the ball, watching if his athleticism. But it's just a unique and different deal.
Yeah.
That's what you're getting a lot of from those coaches. And again, as soon as this thing opens back up, they're going to be out. It's going to be immediate, and they're going to be gone. And so they keep talking about that, but. This year is just super unique because, again, they need the evaluations. What they're also really nervous about is, the transfers and the transfer portal has grown every year. And last year it was up to around 800. And I can almost guarantee you this year it's going to hit 1,000. And what they're nervous about is if you don't have enough information and you don't have enough evaluation, and then you recruit a player because you got to fill that roster spot, you have no idea if it's the right match, kid to coach or coach to kid. So they're thinking, holy cow, it's really important for my class of 2021 and 22 to make sure that we're on top of it because, heck, half my roster might leave because we may have made a mistake one way or the other. So I'm getting even a lot of questions about some of the younger kids as well.
So let's just assume that with the influx, this constant rotation of players every year, when things were normal.
Yeah.
Now things are a little bit different. So people are going to miss. Colleges are going to miss, no question. Mm-hmm. And it's probably just, that's part of doing business right now, and we'll do the best we can. But it seemed like in the past, you had certain, there was limitations on Division I, Division IIs at the NCAA level that weren't placed on JUCOs and NAIAs. Now everybody's is in a freeze.
Yeah.
And when it starts back up, presumably everybody's going to then start their engines and get going again. Is this a disadvantage for any particular group, an advantage, or does it make no difference? Like, we are such in a scramble, it really makes no difference here. Like, where does that put a an NAIA school versus, say, a Division II at the NCAA level? Does it make any difference?
I think it's going to make them have to work even later. NAIA and Division two schools already recruit a lot later than Division I's. And junior college even works later than them because a lot of times they're waiting on test scores and GPAs and things like that, which, again, this year might be really unique because
that's getting pushed out too.
So that's all may get pushed out.
Yeah. So okay. So that's a really good point.
Yeah. So
is that going to make it? Would that make it easier potentially? And I'm playing hypothetical here. That a JUCO kid who would have been a JUCO because he didn't have an SAT score, they may waive that and say go ahead, and now he can move forward. Or is that over our pay grade?
It's over our pay grade, but anything I can tell you this right now, anything's on the table. I've heard 1,000 different theories, and honestly, at this point, I can't say any of them are right or wrong because it's a wait and see game. I know that the transfers, one thing I talk to my players a ton about and their parents is transfers are really changing the game for every high school. So this is not about just this year. It's changing the game, the dynamic of recruiting. 20 years ago, when I was helping kids, a coach could look at their roster and go, you know what? Okay, this kid's a sophomore, so in a couple of years they'll be graduating. They're looking at their roster and they're going, listen, that year I've got a point guard that I'm losing, I've got a shooting guard that I'm losing, and I'm losing my five-man. And so those are the holes I'm trying to fill. And because people didn't transfer. They just stuck with where they were, right? Mm-hmm. So they knew they had 3 scholarships available and they were going to replace those 3 players, right? With transfers, everybody's leaving and coming and going, and it's not going to change, but there's a lot more unknown because on both sides. One is the coaches know that if player from this school transfers, they're going to transfer somewhere. And if they're a really good player, they may want to get them. And they want to be patient, okay, to get that player, right? They want to see who's transferring to see if they can pick up a transfer, right? So that slows down their process. They also don't know what positions are going to transfer from their roster. So it's slowed down college recruiting as a whole a ton, and it's only going to continue to, for high school players especially, it's going to continue to work that way because there's just, depending on the school and their own roster, there's schools that are trying to make a change. They got to make it change fast or they're not going to survive. So they're looking at transfers. They're trying to win now because they know if they get a bunch of freshmen, it's going to be hard to win at that moment. Mm-hmm. They're thinking to themselves, I got to get a grad transfer, I get a junior college transfer, I may get a transfer if I'm a Division II school from a Division I school. So it's just this whole thing when you say about timing, it's slowed so much over the years as we've been doing this for the 20 years. But it's going to really get later and later and later. I mean, there's going to be people that there's current seniors that aren't going to get signed until June, July, right, maybe even August this year. And for those that are underclassmen, those juniors, sophomores, and so on, got to know that coach is worried about the seniors getting their next year before they work on their roster for the year after, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if they got a gift, if they've got someone they want to get done right away, they'll go for it. But they're thinking, first and foremost, they got to get my roster set for next year. So
a lot of dominoes.
It's a lot of dominoes.
You got to wait for one to fall and then the other one to go. So
yep.
If you're a high school senior,
yep, or
even maybe a junior that's a recruitable junior. Yep. What would you suggest is the best thing to do right now, given our situation,
Absolutely,
and not knowing what's really going to happen? I mean, we're hopeful May will come around, and like they say, we're going to move forward. But what would you suggest a high school senior or junior should be doing now today to help their cause?
I think, as all players, and I think even more so parents, they want to be as proactive as humanly possible, and being proactive. The 2 things I would suggest, and I know that this is a question that, for us, this is what we do, but AU basketball, be prepared. Be ready to go when this thing opens, be prepared to get out there and play, okay? So get those rosters, be ready for that, okay? Don't this is probably not going to happen, and it may not. But if it does, you don't want to be the one guy that was missing the boat because you waited too long.
Right. Assume it's going to happen, and then if it doesn't, backtrack.
Exactly. Number 2 is highlight film is the new wave, and game film, highlights, all of that. have that at your fingertips. The proactive part of that is get that information out. If you're a senior especially, get a highlight film and a game film ready to go and be proactive in getting it out. Try to use a trusted source like your high school coach to get it out, or an AAU coach that's respected, because obviously if you're sending it out, or your dad's sending it out, your mom's sending it out, they know that there may be some biases there. But most high school coaches and AAU coaches are there to help, and if they've been around or they're well respected, then it's going to help get that video opened and watched. Okay, and this is such a unique situation because those coaches have time. It's amazing to me how over the years I have been making these phone calls at any time of the year, and coaches are just scrambling because they're so busy. They're busy recruiting. They're busy helping their guys stay on track with their graduation and their this and their that. There's no school. They can't go anywhere. I mean, a lot of those coaches are being told, stay where you're at. Don't leave town. Mm-hmm. And if you are going to leave, let us know. But there's no getting gatherings. So they've got time to sit there and watch some film, and make sure it's well done. Make sure that it's easy to identify who you are. Make sure it's easy to identify what team you're on, so that a coach will get frustrated in the first 10 seconds if it's a poorly done video, and he'll just omit it. He'll get rid of it.
Yeah, this is true. Well, you were in that world when you were at Reno. And guys would get back on the VHS tapes, and 5 seconds into it, you're like, this is crap, throw it away and move on to the next one. Or take the VHS tape and use it for something else.
Yeah,
just record over the top of it. And that's kind of where, maybe that's something, if you're interested in learning more about how to put together a good highlight video or what coaches care about, that's probably another one of these things we could do, where we just sit down and focus on, here are the do's and don'ts of a highlight video. Because you're right. Right now, this is the recruiting. This is how it's going to happen. This is why we're doing a virtual tryout in Montana, is because that's all we got. Yeah, but we're going to fill our rosters. Colleges are going to fill their rosters too. But this is the only way to see a guy play, or a girl play. So maybe we should do that. Let's plan on doing that. And then if you have other questions, let us know, because we want to help. It's an uncertain time, and I think we've got a good resource here that can provide some good answers. Our whole staff is just loaded with information, and honestly, we're ready to find stuff to do like this to help out people, because that's what we do. We're kind of in a pause like everybody else, but we're willing to help. And stay tuned too, because we're going to put together probably a Q&A, a live Q&A. So stay tuned for that. We'll give you more details probably down in the comments area, where you can send in your questions and we'll answer them live as they come to us as best we can, given our current situation, and hopefully that will help as well. Is there anything else you want to add on kind of this weird life as a college coach right now, and what you're seeing or hearing? Something people are go, well, that's interesting. I had no idea they would do that, or they can even do that, like keeping them on campus and not letting them go out.
Yeah, I think a couple of things to just keep in mind. One is that everybody is in the same boat. So being prepared is the way to go. Being proactive is the way to go as best you can. And what I mean by that is, it's not like you're falling behind with regards to your recruiting, because everybody is in the same situation. So I've had a lot of parents that have been saying, listen, I mean, what do we do? And I'm like, you do the best you can. One, in the safest possible way that you can do it, wherever you're at, stay in shape, keep working on your game. Because bottom line is, if you're good enough, they're going to find you with some help. If you're not good enough, it's irrelevant. So if during this time, you're not running and staying in shape, you're not getting shots up, again, by yourself or whatever's safe, whatever situation is right for you. But if you can't go to the gym, push-ups, sit-ups, working on your ball handling, do some things maybe you've never done in a creative time to give yourself an advantage basketball-wise. But I'm telling you right now, it's not a time to panic as far as this, because we're going to get through it, and it's going to come back to reality. And when it does, you want to be, you can be ahead of the game. And right now, again, hopefully we can give you some things that and answer some questions to help. Because again, I know that I'm in contact with these coaches all the time, and I know a lot of our parents and players that they're just trying to figure it all out, and it's tough. So we want to be a resource for you.
All right, that's good. All right, well, we'll bring it to a close with that. Good message, though. Be prepared. The opportunities are going to come eventually. They're going to come back to you. Don't sit around and wait for them. Be ready for them, and also be safe, be healthy, be smart, and stay tuned because we'll have more information coming real soon.